All right, so good morning. Today we're going to go over the volume graphic notes. We're going to start with the rectangular prism or cube. The formula is the base times the height, but this base stands for the area of the base. So you can also think of them as length times width times height. This is a formula you guys have seen before. Again, B stands for the area of the base. For a rectangular base, we got to change the B to length times width. And then for a square, it's length times width, or you can just say length, or side, side. So for example, in this cube, it would be 8 times 6 times 7 to find the volume. And the volume would be 336 feet cubed. For the square pyramid or rectangular pyramid, we have the base equals 1/3 base times height. Again, this base standing for the area of the base. So we would change the B again to length times width. And if it were a square shape instead of a rectangular, it's going to be length times length or side times side. So if we were to plug this in, this is going to be volume equals 1/3 times 5 times 5 times the height of 6. Now the height, just so you guys know, it is that line that goes from the tip of the triangle or the pyramid to the bottom and creates a 90-degree angle. It is not one of the sides, it is that middle one. There's different types, you're going to probably see it different ways, but that is the height from the highest point of the triangle to the base of the pyramid. So this would be the volume would be, for this, 50 centimeters cubed. Okay, now we have the cylinder. The cylinder formula for volume is pi r squared times the height. In this case, nothing stands for anything other than what it says. So volume is pi, radius is 4 in this case, the height is 10. So we're going to get, that is 502.7 inches cubed. For volume, everything is always cubed. All right, now for the cone, again, the cone is going to be the volume 1/3 pi r squared times the height. And again, the height must be perpendicular to the base. So the same thing applies as it does with the pyramid. It's from the tip of the cone to the base of the cone. So we're going to have volume equals 1/3 pi 2 squared 5 squared. And that's going to give us a volume of 20.9 millimeters cubed. And then for the sphere, again, volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. And you have to make sure that the radius is cubed. Usually we work with square, but for the sphere, it's cubed. So plugging that in, it's going to be volume 4/3 pi 6 to the 3rd power. So our volume is going to be 904.8 centimeters cubed. So now volume of rectangular prism. So we have rectangular prism is a 3D figure where all faces are squares or rectangles. Now again, the volume is base times height, or length times width times height, this being the area of the base. So the volume here is going to be 9 times 5 times 6. So our volume is 270 inches cubed. And then for a cube, it's a special type of prism where all the faces are squares. Because all the faces are squares, all the faces are the same. So if I do 7 cubed, or follow the same formula as before, which is length times width times height, it's going to be 7 times 7 times 7, which is the same thing as saying 7 cubed. So it's going to be 343 feet cubed. So we have the volume of pyramid. We have rectangular, squares, pyramids, A, 3D figures. with a rectangular or square, base and triangular sides. The sides come together at a point called the apex. This is the apex, guys. So we have, again, the volume is length, 1/3 length times width times height, or base times height, this being the area of the base. So it's going to be 1/3 times 7 times 8. Again, the height is 11. So we're going to get a volume of 205.3 inches cubed. And note, the height must be perpendicular. I already said this before, but just restating it, has to be perpendicular to the base. Now we have cylinder, a 3D figure with two parallel circular bases. So the volume here is pi times 4 squared times 10. So our volume is 502.7 meters cubed. So a cone is a 3D figure with one circular base and a smooth circular body that comes together at a point called the apex. We're just restating what we learned before. So here our volume is 1/3 times pi times 5 squared times 9. So our volume is 235.6 meters cubed. And again, note that the height has to be perpendicular to the base. So the volume of a sphere. A sphere is a 3D figure that is perfectly round. And every point is equidistant. So from the center point. Now the volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. So it would be 4/3 pi 3 cubed. So our volume is going to be 113.1 feet cubed. And then a hemisphere is half of a sphere. So if we were to divide the volume formula by 2, we get the formula of the hemisphere. So if you know the sphere 1, just divide it by 2, and you're going to get the volume. So when we divide by 2, we get this formula. So our volume is 2/3 pi 2 cubed. So our volume is 16.8 feet cubed. Here we have examples. This first 4 has to do with a rectangular or a cube. So the formula for the volume is length times width times height. So if we find the volume of the first one, it's going to be volume equals 8 times 2 times 2. So our volume is 32 feet cubed. For number 2, what is the volume of the cube? Because it's a cube, we only need one side because all the sides are the same. So it's going to be 5 cubed. So our volume is 125 meters cubed. Then we have a word problem. The volume of a rectangular prism is 300 inches cubed. The length is 10 inches. The width is 4 inches. What is the height? So now we just have to plug it in. 300 for the volume equals length, so 10, times width times 4, times height. So it's going to be 300 equals 40 height. I'm going to divide by 40. So our height is going to be 7.5 inches. And then for number 4, we have the dimensions of a shoebox are 12 inches by 4 inches by 5 inches. How many cubic inches can the whole box? So cubic is the word for volume, because when you're doing volume, every unit is always cubed. So they give us 12 by 4 by 5, so that's the length times width times height. So it's going to be 12 times 4 times 5. So our volume is going to be 240 inches cubed. All right, so let's do the examples for the rectangular or square pyramids. this formula is a third length times width times height. Remember the height being perpendicular to the base. So we're going to get a volume equals 7 times 6 times 5. All of that by a third. So the volume is 70 feet cubed. For number 2, the volume of a pyramid is 600 meters cubed. Find the height of the pyramid if the length is 12 and the width is 12 and the width is 4. So we're just going to plug in 600 equals 1/3 the length times the width times the height. That's going to give us a height of 37.5 meters. Then we have question 3. It says the bottom of the pyramid has an area of 36 yards squared and the height is 14. Find the volume. Now remember, length times width is the area of a square. So we're able to plug that in. So volume equals 36 times 14. All of that times a third. So our volume is going to be 168 yards cubed. And then they're telling us for number 4, the volume of a pyramid is 400 inches cubed. Find the height. We're going to do 400 equals 1/3. 8 times height. So our height is going to be 18.75 inches. Alright, so here we have the volume for cylinders and cones. For a cylinder, it is pi r squared times the height. And for a cone, is 1/3 pi r squared times the height. This is cone. This is cylinder. So they want us to find the volume. In this case, we have the cylinder right here. So keep in mind this 6 is the diameter, so we're going to have to do 6 divided by 2 to get the radius of 3. And our height is 8. So our volume is pi 3 cubed times, sorry, not cubed, squared times 8. And that's going to give us a volume of 226.2 inches cubed. Now for number 2, they want us to find the volume of a cylinder with a diameter of 18 meters and a height of 5 meters. They want us to find the volume, and they give us everything else. So the volume is pi. They're telling us the diameter is 18, so we're going to have to do 18 divided by 2. So 9 squared. And they're telling us the height is 5 meters. So go ahead and plug those in. So the volume of this cylinder is 1,272.3 meters cubed. Now we're going to do some cones. The volume of a cone is 200 cubic inches. If the radius is 10 inches, what is the height? So we're going to plug stuff into the volume formula, telling us the cone has a volume of 200 cubic inches. So 200 equals 1/3 times pi. They're telling us the radius is 10 squared. And they're asking us for the height. When we solve for it, we get a height of 1.9 inches. And then lastly, for number 4, we have find the volume of the cone. The slant height is 12 inches. Now, you're going to have to find the height in order to solve for this, because the height is right here. We can break this radius into 2. So this is a 5, 12. We don't know what the height is yet, so I'm going to go ahead and do height squared plus 5 squared equals 12 squared. So height squared plus 25 equals 144. That's going to give us a height of about 10.9. So that's the height we would be plugging into. So the volume equals 1/3 pi 5 squared times 10.9. I want to plug that into the calculator. I get 285.4 inches cubed. Now we have examples for the spheres and the hemisphere. So the sphere is volume 4 over 3 pi r cubed. And the hemisphere is half of that, so it's going to be 2 over 3 pi r cubed. So they want us to find the volume of the sphere, then find the volume of one hemisphere. So the easiest thing to do for this is to just go ahead and find the volume of the sphere. So 4 over 3 pi 8 cubed. After plugging it in, I get 2,144.7 meters cubed. And to find the volume of the hemisphere, all I'm going to do is divide that number by 2. So 2144.7 divided by 2. And that's going to give me 1,072.3 meters cubed. Now for 2, they're telling us the radius of a hemisphere is 7 inches. Find the volume. Since they're talking about a hemisphere, I'm going to go ahead and use the hemisphere formula, or half of the sphere. So 2/3 pi 7 cubed. And when I do that, I get a volume of 718.4 inches cubed after plugging it into the calculator. Then for number 3, if the radius of a tennis ball is 1.7 inches, what is the volume? So a tennis ball is a sphere, it's a perfect circle. So they're asking us for the volume. So the volume is 4 over 3 pi. They're telling us the radius of a tennis ball is 1.7 inches. So 1.7 cubed. And that's going to give us 20.6 inches cubed. And then for this last one, we have the volume of a sphere is 700 cubic yards. What is the length of the radius? So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in for a different number. So 700 for V, 4 over 3 pi r cubed. After plugging it into the calculator, I get 5.5 yards.